Speaking of friends of the show, when we first opened this place up, Dean Croak came by, and I wasn't kidding. If you looked at the post I made on LinkedIn, I'm going to share the post over on Facebook. Big thanks to Dean Croak. Came in for an entire 3, 4 days, and while he was here, Madison, he actually built the furniture. He and Dave built the chairs that we're all sitting in right now. In the midst of all that, he's got a friend too who, when we finally got the thing going, the first day on at the studio arrived flowers to say thank you. Those were from Chuck Snow, who is, by the way, along with volunteering to speak on behalf of NextGen Trucking, is the co-host of the Rates and Lanes podcast. But to say that is to not even come close to talking about his lifelong passion for the trucking industry. All he ever wanted to do was drive a truck and own a trucking company. His parents wanted him to be a doctor, lawyer, and accountant, anything but a trucker. Didn't turn out that way, did it, Chuck? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Jimmy?
I am fine, my friend, and we've been meaning to get you on for a while. And as you can probably tell, do you know that in 7 weeks, you represent our 300th unique individual guest? That's how fast and furious this has been. It has been
Wow.
crazy, and we are so thrilled to finally have you on. How is the world treating you, and what are you up to?
The world is treating me fantastic. I am so blessed. I'm just a lucky guy. I get to do what I want to do, and I'm just fooling right now. I do my podcast every week. I enjoy my family, and I fool around with old trucks. So I have a collection of mostly Mack antique trucks. And I have one Ford. The newest or the oldest truck is a '54. And the newest is I'm taking delivery of today. Actually, it's getting picked up today, and that's a 1989.
I want to kind of go
And
back.
that,
I want to go back to
Go
your
ahead.
origin story because you mentioned the Mack trucks, and you actually the whole story really. I mean, we can talk about the childhood passion and you not actually being allowed to mention the word truck if you brought home a bad report card.
Which is
But
every semester.
yeah, I understand. I resemble that remark, at least in the early going for me. But you actually tell the story about the '66 Mack truck, because that's
Well,
a really fun way to start.
yeah, I couldn't get a job anywhere because I didn't really know how to drive it. I knew how to basically shift the gears in the truck, and I could get around a corner in a tractor trailer, but I didn't really know how to drive a truck. So this is back in 1974, and nobody, no matter how desperate they were, was going to hire me. And I just wanted to do this so badly. I could taste it. And I saw an advertisement in the newspaper for a 1966 F model Mack truck with a contract. And I phoned and I went down to see the fellow that was selling it. And he was the dispatcher of a trucking company that had just gotten off the road. And I ended up buying the truck from him. And he sent me out west with somebody to learn some ropes on one trip. Went to Saskatchewan, which is a long, funny story, which I don't think we have time today, but it was hilarious. And brought back a load of cows on a flatbed with sides and a tarp, so on a rack job. And never hauled cattle ever since. And that was, I think I left on Friday, came back on Friday, and on Monday morning, I headed out in my 1966 F model Mack to New York City. So talk about 12 by fire. And I've been around the industry pretty much ever since.
Chuck, one of the things that you and I both have an obsession with, so does our friend Dean Croak, and Dave Nemo pretty much exists in that space, is I think you and I and a number of people that actually are contributing on our chat pages as well, too, want to conduct a seance and summon the spirit of the old culture of trucking back into the equation. A lot of people talk about this, but the real difficult thing here these days is we live in an era where videos are 1 minute long. After that, you start really pushing the envelope, where sound bites rule the day and all that kind of stuff. How do you and I, how do people like you, me, and Dean, and our friends like Scat Pack, who's been commenting all morning long, how do we recapture that spirit while acknowledging that we've got to capture people's attention at the same time to both promote trucking, but do it in a way that actually captures the imagination of younger people?
We have to do something to make it sexy again. Somebody just sent me something last night, a friend of mine out in Alberta. He sent me something with these old trucks, and there was a caption on it and said, people drove these trucks not because they wanted the job, because they wanted the lifestyle. And that was the culture 50 years ago and 40 years ago. There was a trucking culture that people wanted because we made it, everybody made it desirable. And now everybody works at making it undesirable. So people no longer want to join our industry. If you go on social media, there's a lot of bad rap about truckers and about truckers doing stupid things, and it's truckers taking videos of other truckers smashing into things and everything else. And if I see something like that, I always call them out saying, "What are you doing? There's a bunch of us trying to fix things, and you're trying to break them." Because we want that culture to come back. We've got to get a better perception from the public, and I think we do that starting with education. We have done such a lousy job educating the public. We're at fault as an industry. And then what happens is we haven't really beat our own chest, which we really need to do. We haven't educated the public on how to behave around trucks. I think they knew much better 50 years ago to give truckers room. And part of it has to do with the congestion on our roadways.
Yeah, and I think part of it too. I've always made the joke. I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we got a public service announcement during the NFL, during the golf matches that
Yes.
my mom and dad watch, which is simply saying, "Hey guys, just a suggestion. Simply using your blinker on a regular basis is going to make a trucker's life that much easier. Simply keeping distance, simply understanding the blind spots. If your car classes in high school, the few that remain." If in fact they haven't taught you how to find a blind spot, talk to a trucker and ask how to find a blind spot. I would love PSAs on a regular basis educating the public on how to behave around trucks to help them get them the stuff that they need. It's like, remember, when you cut that guy off, you're cutting off something that is going, if not to you, then to somebody else that you care about, or even just, that you're going to profit from.
100%. And I had a conversation with a career counselor at the conference where I was representing NextGen Truckers. And during the conference, one of the career counselors had come up and said, I wouldn't want any of my students to become truckers. I really don't like you guys. The way you behave on the highway. Whoa! And I had a talk with her, and by the time I finished, she realized that it wasn't us. It was the way she drove. She didn't realize that she couldn't, that a trucker needed room. She had no idea how much room it took us to stop. And she would get in front of trucks and stay right in front of them. I said, that's the worst thing you can do, or stay right beside them. By the time I finished, she had a different point of view. And that's just one person talking to one person. We need to really make this public.
Yeah, and that's such an important thing too. And it's also, this is where mindfulness really comes into play. I know you can't just walk over to citizens in a parking lot and you can't walk over to citizens in a parking lot and say, "Let me tell you about truckers." But any opportunity you have, if you're able to engage in a conversation, it's sometimes tough with somebody who's not in the industry. I always tell them, take a moment. If they ask you what you do, it opens the door to say, "I'm a trucker. Can I ask you a favor? Tell me what you think of us." And be willing to accept what they say, and then say, "Okay, here are some things you can do to change your opinion of us by changing what you do." And I think that anybody that ever opens the door who's not in trucking to a trucker needs to take advantage of that as quickly as possible. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
I can't agree more, Jimmy. And what we should maybe also be doing is putting messages on the sides of our trailers. We've got a 53-foot billboard that nobody uses to educate the people beside us, in front of us, and behind us.
Yeah, and it's such an important thing because I in my first year on the job, I had a phone call and a guy told me, he said my safety policy is that I am responsible for the 1,000 feet in front of me, the 1,000 feet to my right, the 1,000 feet to my left, and the 1,000 feet behind me. He said, now if only I could get the four wheelers to understand what I'm trying to do, I would be able to kind of maneuver and navigate this to my heart's content. And that's kind of the issue. Okay, I got to change topics. We're going to run out of time. I knew this would happen, Chuck. Nemo Nation is fast and furious. What can we expect to see on at Rates and Lanes next?
Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rico and I are doing one tomorrow. It's just him and I talking about the state of the industry and a whole bunch of other things. We normally have a guest, but once in a while we like to go rogue. And Rico and I just like to talk about stuff in the industry. We're old friends. We've been doing this podcast for about 8-9 years, every week pretty much.
Rico Muhammad, by the way, Rates and Lanes is the podcast, guys. Head over to at Rates and Lanes. Just subscribe. Like I said, just like Radio Nemo, don't cost you nothing. You just get notifications, and you can find out more about trucking. It's really awesome and wonderful. Chuck, as are you. Thank you for the wonderful gift you sent us in our opening week. It lifted everybody's spirits around here and made the room smell really nice. Thank you, Chuck. Good talking to you.
Great talking to you, and give my regards to everybody. I'll see you next year in New Orleans.
And yes, you will, sir. Chuck Snow, everybody, by the way. That's a smart dude, Madison. That's a smart guy. He knows